Happy Divine Mercy Sunday, everybody. Uh, we had two priests hearing confessions for an hour and a half while our Divine Mercy um, devotions were going on inside the church, and I consider that a rousing success. Something that I do here at least the parish I'm at right now is about quarterly. I will give a homily dedicated to the sacrament of confession, and I'm at a very rather large parish, and I'm not seeing absolutely everybody the same weekend over and over again like it might be in a small town parish. And so I think about quarterly. I'll just go over and I'll shake the tree, and without fail, without a doubt, I always get somebody, me, myself personally, I always get somebody who mentions to me that they are hearing confession, they're here in confession so that because of my homily, they'll just say, I heard you preach on this, and now I'm here. So if there happen to be any priests listening, just go ahead and shake that tree, see what kind of fruit comes off of it. It's always a good thing. We're rounding out the octave of Easter now. Uh, so it's been Easter every day since Easter Sunday. And now we're finally getting near the end of Easter. The church has uh, power over time. Hello. Good evening, Charlie. Uh, it's got power over time, and it could just stop the clock liturgically and say it's going to be Easter every day for a week now. And the church does this because Easter is a mystery, and it's a profound mystery at the center of our faith. And so we need to take it slow. We got to take it easy, and we've got to come at the mystery of Easter not only year after year in our liturgical calendar, but also, for in a very intense and focused way during this octave of Easter, and in a less intense but still real way throughout the entire season of Easter, which lasts until Pentecost, which this year, looking at my calendar over here, Pentecost is on May 28th. So, that's what we're doing here. And, slowing down and looking at the mystery of Easter, we could come at it from different angles, we can come at it from different perspectives, and hopefully we'll be more and more conformed to that mystery of Easter. Uh, as the years go on, year after year, decade after decade, we listen to our Lord, and we meditate on his resurrection. Very sad to say that I missed the train on the Divine Mercy Novena this year. Yeah, a lot of years I do remember to start the novena on Good Friday, but I did not this year. So just in case you guys were operating under the delusion that I was perfect and never did anything wrong. Well, I'm open to interacting with any of you who are listening. We've got the links over on the sidebar. And if you've got a question or a comment, you can just leave that in the chat, and those pretty reliably make it to me. Um, Yeah, I had a wonderful opportunity for spiritual direction on Friday this week, and my spiritual director lives in a small town called Warsaw, North Dakota. It's hardly anybody who lives there, but he is a Franciscan priest, and he is trying to get a Franciscan order up and running in Warsaw, and he's very generous with me, and he'll just have me over for the day, and he will he will just kind of let me hang out. And I got to do some reading, a very interesting book that would cause all sorts of talk if you found the right people to talk about it. And I'm trying to Google it right now. Here we go. Here we go. This should get us close. Here we go. Yeah. This stuff right here. Gonna share screen. Oh, they changed it. Here we go. Yeah. Speaking in Tongues, a critical historical examination, volume 1, the modern redefinition of tongues. So this book is written in a rather interesting way. Most of these historical examinations will start as far back as we have any record and go forward. But this one's starting in the 20th century and moving backwards. And so, volume 1, I don't think gets us past about 1830. And then, volume 2 covers medieval and probably late patristic era. And then, volume 3 covers the early patristic era in the biblical era. And full disclosure, Dr. Blosser, who is writing this book, uh, along with Charles Sullivan, is was my professor at Sacred Heart Seminary, and it's only because I was friends with him on Facebook that I found out that he was even writing this book. But I was interested in it from the very beginning. So it's going through a lot of charismatic revival stuff in the 20th century, both like the what is it, the Azula Street revival in Los Angeles in 1906, and then the Catholic charismatic revival starting in 1968. Uh, all righty. You have exactly 15 minutes to get on here. Otherwise, something bad will happen. And yeah, it's a super interesting book, but not nearly as interesting as Ted. How you doing?
Oh my goodness, that's an introduction. Wait, hold on. I'm more interesting than glossolalia because I don't buy that.
Well, maybe
What do
you're more of the right kind of interesting.
you did you have a good East octave of Easter?
I did. Yeah, I got to celebrate the Easter Vigil for the first time. Um,
Me too.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
so I mean,
It's
no,
something.
I mean celebrate it. I got to be the main
Oh, yes.
celebrant.
Okay, I understand.
It's a little
I didn't know.
different.
No, absolutely. It is. It is.
Yeah.
It is ontologically different. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and there's oh man, it was
Wow.
great. It was great, but
Yeah.
like this time last week, I was absolutely out of gas. There was nothing left.
Yeah. Yeah, we did the midnight mass with all four of our kids, and it was like
They just fell asleep, right?
not my boy. He just sat there and stared at me and blinked really hard until 1 in the morning. It was like
And then he fell asleep?
as soon as I put him in the car, I put him in the car and he was like out like that. But
Mm,
he did not want to he didn't want to go. No, the other kids though, it's like they're there for the blessing of the fire, and that's really exciting. And then we got in the sanctuary and they're just like curled up in pews and we're out. So not the sanctuary. That's my old Protestant. We went in the church and got in the
yeah,
pews. There we go.
yeah,
There
yeah.
we
The
go.
nave. You were in the
The
nave.
nave. We were in the nave. Yes. Yes. And by the fact that I didn't say nave, you can tell my naivete. So there you go.
Oh man, it looks like the weather's nice enough for you to be outside, huh?
Oh, it is. Yeah, the world has pulled out all the stops for this last week. It's just been like beautiful and sunny, and we had a cold front blow through, so it went from like 85 down to like 75 and breezy, and yeah, it's been glorious
Yeah, we've
actually.
been warming that air up for you.
Thanks, Father. We appreciate you take the brunt of it as it comes down from the Arctic.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, you haven't. There's been tornadoes in your area. You haven't been affected by those, have you?
No, no, that was about an hour east of here, and it was,
Okay.
I mean, it was crazy. Like we had parishioners that had the tornado come through half a mile from their house. They're telling me stories. They're like, the wife went out and was like, that looks like a tornado, and the husband was like, she probably means like it's swirly, and he went outside and was like, no, there it is. There's the debris up in the air. He's like, everyone in the basement now. So
Okay.
I confess to like a sort of wishing that I had been able to be a half a mile from a tornado and be safe, because man, stuff like that is just oh, there's something about it. It's like a big, like a big thunderstorm that rolls in. And you're like, we're probably gonna be okay.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
There's like that tickling down in the bottom of your stomach that just, man, yeah. So no, the weather's been beautiful, and yeah, it's been really wonderful. This is our, so I think I said this. We've just hit 1 year through um, attending mass, and so it's been really wonderful. The getting to go to the vigil mass that was really something. I
Hmm.
I'm working on this theory, Father, that 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 liturgy is like. Sorry, there's some gnats out here. That, so I don't know if you've heard this. Like the definition of sublime is something that, like, maybe less, say, emotionally engaging in the moment, but something that like lives with you afterwards. Have you ever heard
Okay.
anything like that?
I'm used to more of the romantic definitions of sublime, where it's something that makes you feel tiny and terrified.
Excellent. Okay. I wish I knew where that definition of sublime that I'm been using in my head. In your, we'll come up with some other term, but basically things that like in the moment, who knows, however much you're able to take in, but then
Hmm.
like the further you, as you get out from it, it starts to like really work on you.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
like the Easter Vigil was a perfect example of that. It's like we're there for 3 hours. We got the young kids. We're negotiating all this, new liturgy for us. And so it's not, there are parts obviously that are really, you can really engage with, but a lot of it is like afterwards, as I'm kind of like going over in my mind, what was said and what was done, that it really starts that like there's this like all this formation that happens afterwards, which not, I'll just look at my own life. There was, let's say, more of an emphasis on emotional experience. And so let's say the degree to which something affected me, it peaked, and then it was like on the slope out in terms of how much impact it had on me. Whereas these other things like the vigil mass, it's like, wow, I may not really even be able to sort out what's going on. Latin has something to do with that. And then, but then like I, I can look back on it and say it's like, shape. So like the blessing of the water. I mean, that's incredible. The way it just like ties all this, the whole creation and creation history, Israel's history, our Lord's life on this earth, all of it together, and saying, here it is contained in this one place, and in the waters of baptism, basically, you water that were there for all these things, um, and so then seeing the way those things like start, it's like when I'm there for the liturgy, it gets its start, it gets planted, and then that
Hmm.
stuff starts
Hmm.
working on me over time. It's just interesting. It's like it's a different way to think about how all that stuff engages with my process of sanctification. Right? It's not. Yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm
It's
pondering it.
I mean, the analogy I really like is that that these sacraments and these rituals will plant a seed, and it's like you're not going to get everything. You're not going to get the fruit right away,
Yeah,
but over time, the potential contained in that seed gets unfolded. It gets unfolded. It gets unfolded, and it begins to bear fruit until it grows up to its full maturity there. But you got to put the time and the cultivation into it in order to get that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what my experience has borne out so far. It's it's very interesting, and it's also freeing too, frankly, to just be able to say, all right, I'm gonna be here. I'm going to I'm going to, as much as I can, engage with this, with my mind, with my will, and to try to be reverent and devout here. And then like we'll see. I don't have to get to the end of it and be like, that didn't feel like just like a totally banging Easter service, so I guess something went wrong.
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
there's this sort of freedom to just say, okay, that's what it was. I'm like, eh, but then I start thinking about, I'm like, okay, well, the most of the most important things in my life, and then also, you know, on parallel, like great literature seems to do that, something like that too, where I think particularly like when I started actually reading really good stuff, like in college, one of the first things I read was the Odyssey, and at no point in it was I think, again, because you're reading translations of Greek, and it's like I'm not thinking, wow, that was like such a great turn of phrase, or like, oh wow, like such an exciting moment. But afterwards, I started to realize like there's this thing in my head now that just had another quality from all the other things, and and then particularly the things I keep coming back to, like the Divine Comedy, where I'm coming back to it over and over and over, and yeah, it has that seed-like quality. Like it's a thing in there, and then 10 years later, I'll realize, oh my goodness, that's what he was talking about. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I remember being in kindergarten, right? And reading, getting a storybook read to me about this little girl who loved lima beans. Right? She loved lima beans, but she knew that none of her friends liked lima beans, and so she wouldn't admit to liking lima beans, right? And
we've
then
all been there.
one day she woke up sick. She woke up sick, and I don't know. The parents kept on asking her what her symptoms were, and these symptoms would pop up, right? So if she, do you have a fever? All of a sudden, she'd start burning, right? Do you have sniffles? All of a sudden, she'd had the sniffles and all these things. And then they brought in all of these doctors, and the doctors were like, perhaps it's a bacterial infection. All of a sudden, there'd be all these bacterial, or maybe it's a fungus, and all these fungal spores would sprout out of her, like, oh, these doctors are just making it worse. So then they brought in some kind of a guru, right? And the guru said, just close your eyes and feel yourself at one with the room. And then she became one with the room, and her mouth was the bed, and her
Wait,
eyes were the windows.
I
Right?
read this book. Yes, yeah.
And then a little old lady brought her some lima beans, and boom, she was bad case of stripes. That's right. She woke up with stripes.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And would you believe I didn't get the moral of that story until I was like 17 years old?
But it was
If you
there.
allow other people's opinions of you to dictate what you think, then they're going to dictate whatever they want. Oh my gosh!
But it was there.
It
It was working on you. It was working on you. I'm sure it was working on you.
So this children's literature is super stinking important,
Okay, so this is a weird one. Did you by any chance grow up with the children's book Go Dogs Go? It's like Dr. Seuss adjacent. It's
Go
this weird, it's
Dogs Go.
like dog, big dog, little dog, black and white dogs, all these dogs, and then there's just dogs doing different things.
Okay. It is. Oh man. Like I really feel like I remember it, but
hold
there's
on,
no memories there.
Am I gonna violate copyright stuff if I like hold it up here?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, I'm gonna be back in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Charlie Campbell, your brave admission is comforting to me, because but it took me years, right? And I would remember that every once in a while, and then boom, it all finally came together. It is a Dr. Seuss. Okay. All righty. Yeah. Laura, I can't see your hat because you're not on the stream. So oh. Never mind, it's not Seuss. My childhood is destroyed. Okay, alrighty.
Okay, so this is Go Dog Go, which I grew up with.
Yes, I've read that one.
Okay, yeah. So like for years, it kind of made no sense to me, but like I was fascinated with it. All my siblings were fascinated. All my kids were fascinated with it. And then I think it was probably Jonathan Pageau that did this to me. But like I'm looking at it, and it's like there's dog, you have big dog and little dog, and you're like, okay, so we have some category of being, and then we have these fundamental distinctions: big dogs and little dogs, black and white dogs. So you've got all these opposites set up, and so you go through this, and it's like, okay, now we have this like a boy dog and a girl dog talking about a hat and whether or not they like it. And like this reoccurs. Like she keeps saying, "Do you like my hat?" And they get fancier every time. He's like, "I don't," and then goodbye. And you're like, what's going on here? And then we have dogs going into a maze. And so this is like a year ago. This bizarre brainstorm. I'm just gonna walk you through it. I want to see if you buy this.
Sure.
So we have being, and then we have, let's say, poles of being. We have differentiation, and then you have the sexes, and there's some sort of like rift between male and female, and then you end up in this world where you have one little dog going into a maze, and you have three big dogs going out of a maze. It's like things are getting more confusing. Then you have a red dog and a blue tree, a blue dog and a red tree. Like everything's mixed up, right?
The categories are mixing.
They're mixing. It's disordered. Then you have dogs going around in cars, right? They're all just like running into each other. This car is broken down. These dogs are like smashed into each other. There's no direction. They're going up and down. More of that. You have like injustice, right? There's the big dog who's got the house and he's kicking the little dog out. And then you've got some other stuff. There's a lot of like disordered things. Dogs in helicopters over trees, in the water, over the water. It doesn't make a lot of sense. We have here she is with an even bigger hat and he still doesn't like it. So there's still conflict between them. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune, right? The dogs are all going around and around and around, go around again. You're like, okay. And then we also have conflict with the environment, right? He's like, the sun's baking this dog and you're like, why are you fighting the way of the world? And then you have this page, and I credit my sister for this. This is the turning point.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna highlight you. That's my goal.
Oh,
there we
fantastic.
go. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so what's fascinating is this is the only. Dude, I have no idea how much P.D. Eastman meant any of this, but you have 3 dogs at a party on a boat at night, and there's a cross of wood illuminated with a lantern. I have no idea. It's also they're on a party, so it's the first time there's any sort of like cohesion between them, right? They're doing something together.
Yes.
Okay, so there's right, and what happens immediately is now you have dogs at work dogs work, dogs at play dogs play, right? So you've gone from this disordered, chaotic thing to organized work and organized play, right? This is how people are supposed to interact together. But there's still this issue, right? Hold on, I don't know if you can see that. So there's still the hat, right? They're trying to meet on top of the mountain, but it's not working. Something is wrong there. We don't have a resolution. But now the dogs, they're in cars again, but they're not driving around like mad, smashing into each other and breaking down. They're all going somewhere together. And they're going, right? So there's a telos, right? They're headed somewhere. Not only are they headed somewhere, they're also following the rules, right? So like, where's that traffic light coming from? It's just hanging down from heaven, right? But they're following it, right? So it says go, they go when it says go, and then they all stop when it says stop, and they all go when it says go again, right? They're following the order of things. And then this one, we could talk for like 10 minutes about what my interpretation of this is, but we'll just leave that one out.
They're playing tennis on top of a blimp, yeah.
Right. Well, I think it's as one does, or it's the fact that Christ has despoiled the prince of the air, and so now there's even rejoicing in the heavens. But it's getting a little weird. So now all the dogs are asleep. And this is the part where it's like half the time when I read this to my kids, I start crying because now it's time for sleep. They will sleep all night. Right. And what comes after you sleep all night? I mean, look, they're under covers. Like, I get it. They're dead. They're dead. The dogs are dead. And now it is day. Now is the sun. Now the sun is up. Now is the time for all dogs to get up. Right. And you have this messenger yelling and he's ringing a bell. Right, Father? And they all jump out in the sunlight. And they drive off really fast. And Father, where are they going?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
They're going to a tree.
Going to a tree. Of course. Where else would they be going?
Now the cars stop. Now all the dogs get out. Look where they're going.
They're climbing
now
Jacob's
look where those
ladder.
dogs are going. Jacob's ladder. Hold on. To the tree, right? It's like further up and further in. Up the tree, up they go to the top of the tree. Why? Will they work there? Will they play there? What is up there on top of that tree? And it's a dog party. A big dog party. Big dogs, little dogs, red dogs, blue dogs, yellow dogs, green dogs, black dogs, and white dogs are all at a dog party. What a dog party.
Wow.
And then the last thing, hello again, and now do you like my hat? And look, she is crowned in glory, right? She has a crown on her head where all of creation is brought together in this symbol of glory. And he says, I do. What a hat. I like it. I like that party hat. And they go off into the west.
Dang. I didn't know what I was expecting. And it wasn't that. And I'm glad my expectations were wrong because holy mackerel.
I mean, dude, I have no idea where that came from, if P.D. Eastman meant it or what, but like,
yeah, no. It's like that's why we know that symbolism isn't arbitrary, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
it's not like painting red octagons all over the place. The red octagons are useful, but we made that up. But all
Yes.
of this stuff is out there and we discover it, right?
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if we really are a microcosm of the universe, then it's also inside of us already, or as I think Aquinas would say, it's imprinted into us already,
Mm.
so
Mm.
that so that basically we just need to make the connection and everything lines up. It's like gears that are meant to run with each other, but it's organic and way cooler than machines. So
I'm almost like, could you have come up with something that good if you tried? I don't know. I
no,
just
no, you just because it's that right brain. Not even right. I mean, it is the right brain, I think, but mediated by the right brain. But it's that intuitive, continuous processing that just
yeah.
knows what this book is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And like all of the best stuff is created in that way, where
Yeah.
you're not trying to force it. You just let it happen, right? Why does the
It's
Easter Vigil start with the fire?
yeah.
People just knew that was right.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Man,
just love it so much. I just love it so much.
I'm
Oh,
starting to get suspicious of all of my childhood reading, right? Like how much
yeah.
of that had deeply implanted symbolism in there? Because I didn't start paying attention to symbolism until I read Holes,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
basically a pretty excellent book, I think.
I
Would
haven't read
probably
that one
also be
actually.
oh, yeah, not a part of your childhood, huh? Okay.
No, no. I almost read it many times. I don't know why I never did, but I almost read it many times.
Well, I can recommend it for your children. It's a kind of a, depending on how sharp they are, they might be able to pick it up at 7 or 8,
Yeah.
or it might
Yeah.
be a 10-year-old sort of thing.
Well, if they're like me, they won't be able to read until they're 8. So
Well, now, Charlie, I don't think Holes has the same kind of symbolic resonance, but it's a really tightly written story. Um, it's not nearly simple enough to be like Go Dog Go, where it can just do everything perfectly. Um, but what I did notice was, and this is my 10-year-old appropriation of it, was everything was set up perfectly in that book, right? And so you get through the whole thing with the yellow spotted lizards and the onions, and then the ending makes sense, and it all ties it nicely together for a 10-year-old there. So that was when I first started actually kind of paying attention to books a little bit. And then even more when we actually did Harry Potter books in a middle school literature class. Um, and these things would be the sort of thing where if you've, studied a little bit of literature, they'd be obvious to you. But when you're a middle schooler and your teacher points it out, it's like, whoa, oh, that was there. So anyway, maybe there's some more depth to holes that I haven't plunged.
if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't gone down into the depths yet
Holes are very deep.
yeah. Yeah. Well, they're only about 6 feet deep. The same
Oh, okay.
length as a shovel, same length and width of the shovel. Why do we gotta dig all these
that's
holes?
that's definitely gotten in your head, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Father,
Oh, I
have you
read
ever
it.
read?
I just said I
No,
read it more than once. Yeah. So
there you go. Have you read a Canticle for Leibowitz by any chance?
I have.
Okay, you're talking about tight endings where stuff comes together, and that one. So I had the very weird experience of reading The Name of the Rose and then A Canticle for Leibowitz within about 2 months of each other, which, like superficially, they're both really weird books about monks and strange stuff happening. But I there's some fascinating contrast in terms of the way that like the Name of the Rose goes in this like just insane self-contradictory postmodern like there's no narrative and none of it means anything, and I was like, wow, dude, you just completely ruined your book. And then I read A Canticle for Leibowitz on the recommendation of the same friend and thought I was running into the same thing, and found the way that so much comes together that very, I mean, there's just something about that. Like there's an experience of reading a narrative that is crafted so that everything ends up in this one place. There's this sort of like singularity at the end of it. And not if you, I don't, not to ruin it for anyone else, but if you remember when he's like at the very end, when the church has collapsed, and he finds this, and there's like he's talking to the skull there. They're just like, it's just so good. I also the contention that the Roman Catholic Church is what's going to make it through total nuclear war. I'm like, yeah, I buy that now.
All that decentralized command or subsidiarity, as we should be calling it.
Yes.
Because it's like, you know what? If there was a worse, horrible nuclear war and we lost contact with Rome, I think we would just go back to electing our own bishops. It's like, what else are you going to do? And so it's like, yeah, we got all these backups. A Canticle for Leibowitz, of course. That's what I just talked about. It is worth reading. I like how if you know theology, then the little aside about the Dominicans debating whether or not the Blessed Virgin Mary got any of the preternatural gifts back in the Immaculate Conception. Like, you have to know theology in order to get that particular part of the payoff at the end.
Yeah,
it's just a giant nerd book.
Yeah,
and
that is
it's like, I was
exactly
glad,
what it is.
Yeah, I was glad I knew a little bit of Latin when I was reading it, because I could be like, okay, he's just quoting the Psalms there. That's what's going on. It's nothing all that special there.
He's unapologetic, and like it's in 3 parts. Like the main drama of the first third is like the ecclesiastical canonization process. Like that's the drama of it's like, is this guy going to get canonized? It's great, and it's fantastic, and just in terms of all this stuff about, well, Charlie, your thing about the Immaculate Conception, you don't.
You will get the plot without that. These are
Absolutely.
just little jokes that the author put in for giant nerds like me and Ted.
So in one sense, it's like the Lord of the Rings, where you can read the trilogy and enjoy it profoundly, and just feel like you're living in a complete world. And then you go and you read the Silmarillion, and you realize that almost everything that was all these side references in the Lord of the Rings is like a 15 to 50 page story that he wrote somewhere else, and you feel completely overwhelmed. But when you read the Lord of the Rings, you don't need any of that. You're like, oh yeah, Baron and Luthien, there's a cool story behind that, and it has something to do with Aragorn, and is sort of tragic and also connected. And then you go and you read the Lay of Baron and Luthien, and and then your mind gets blown. But you would never sit down and read it, and you certainly don't even need to know what it is to like really enjoy the Lord of the Rings. It's that sort of like, it's like a correspondence with reality, where you don't have to like look at your house and know, oh yeah, it was built in this architectural style, it was started by this person, and on and on and on and on. And sure, you can add richness to your life, but like, you can still live in your house and love it.
As long as it's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I got to tell you what, though, about A Canticle for Leibowitz, is I absolutely enjoyed it my first time through. I was hooked. I was all in, and I loved it. And my second time through, I thought, I've done this already. So it's super clever. Highly recommend it. But it's like once you've read it once, it's like, oh, yep, there's that. Oh, yep, there's that. Oh, we've lost Ted. He's
no, I'm here. I'm walking inside. I don't want to.
Too many bugs.
Too many bugs. The bugs got me.
Yeah. The bugs are persistent like that. So anyway, I'm not saying that doesn't mean you should read it. It'd be the sort of thing that I would buy on Kindle now, so I don't have to haul it everywhere I go for the rest of my life. But I bought it on paperback. So
my friends that I borrowed had the grooviest paperback cover with these like Benedictine monks on hovercraft, like going up into this giant cross-shaped starship that looked like a stained glass window. So I went into it expecting that, and it was totally different and great. But I was like, I kind of want my Gothic starship.
Yeah, many books are like that. Wait 20 years, and the blessing of limited memory means you can enjoy it again. You may well be right, but I think I read that one before I was 25, so it's going to be locked in there. Although I didn't remember Go Dog Go very well until you started showing me the pictures. So
yeah, So I think Beatrix Potter, not sort of as diagrammatically as that, but she's hitting a lot of similar things. Squirrel Nutkin, my sister and I had a long conversation about Squirrel Nutkin. Squirrel Nutkin is fascinating. That is a very archetypal story as well. If you're familiar with it, it's the squirrels that go out in the autumn to this island in the middle of this Scotch loch or northern, it's a Lake District. So there you go, Northern English Lake, and the island's got all these nut trees on it, but there's Old Brown, who's this big owl living on it. And so every day of the week they come and they bring some present. It's a sacrifice, some present to Old Brown, and say, "Old Mr. Brown, can we gather nuts from your island?" And then there's all the good squirrels who do that, and then there's Squirrel Nutkin, who just throws riddles at Old Brown, and then goes out and fiddles around and plays bowling, makes a game of bowling with a crab apple and pine cones or something like that. Anyway, he just fiddles around, and then the last day he gets so brash that he jumps on Old Mr. Brown as he's telling a riddle, and then ends up stuck in his waistcoat pocket and is almost eaten, but escapes losing his tail. It's very interesting, because Old Mr. Brown is basically he's this embodiment of chaos. It's like he's the thing you bring the sacrifices to, so it doesn't kill you, so that you can live in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But there's sort of the easy moralistic tale, and then there's a second level of it too, which is really interesting, which is Squirrel Nutkin does escape, and this sort of balance between that sacrificial life and the levity that Squirrel Nutkin brings. At any rate, I think that stuff starts working on people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're sticklers for children's books in our family. We do not let garbage in this house, because I'm this is the imaginative substrate. You start flipping through some of this modern garbage, and you're this is not what you are going to build your imaginative life on. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. It's if the question is as important as the answer, if the framework is important as the content, it's this is the feminine. I mean, that's what Chesterton says, right? I don't agree with him, but he's by the time a kid goes to school at 4, they've learned everything important in their life from their mother already. He's wrong, but he's also right.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's not somebody you go to for precision. Yeah, he's just kind of shooting from the waistcoat, and that's what we pay him for. That's what we pay him for. How you doing, Andrew?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing all right. Did you have Easter today?
Yeah.
And by Easter, I mean Pascha.
Yep.
If we were talking in Latin, it would be Pascha too. It's just we're American and we've got that English heritage, so we call it Easter.
Uh-huh. Yeah. We had matins yesterday, and then just the service bled into today. So it's pretty great.
Service bled in. Of course it did. What time did you get started with matins?
8:30. So
okay.
Mm-hmm. Not too bad.
Yeah, I got to take advantage of the famous brevity of the Roman Rite, and we started at 8:30 and we're done by 11. And I still had somebody email complaining to me that it was too long and we shouldn't have done all the readings. It's I mean, I could read the email, but that would be rude. But it was they had to get up at work at 5 and work the whole day. And it's well, I don't know, I'll probably give the person a phone call and at least talk to them about it. But yeah. So
just tell them the email was too long and you didn't read it.
There are jobs and there are positions in society where you can get away with that kind of shenanigans, where you can just troll people. But once you got this thing on, you got to be Mr. Approachable. Mm-hmm. So I will not do that.
Father, somewhere in my Paul Vanderklay listenings, at some point he referred to certain pastors as quivering masses of availability.
Well, it's not that.
Which is not what any Catholic priest I've ever met is, because you guys are spread so thin. But when you're talking about having the collar and having to be approachable, that was the first thing that I thought of. I was like, I've met those people. They're like, oh, you want to talk to me? What do you want to talk about? We can talk about anything you want to talk about. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a
Amazing.
time and place for that, but yeah, it's you know, I got my clerical shirts and I started wearing them in Theology 1 until like the first time you see yourself in the mirror, it's like, oh boy, this is getting serious now. I got to get used to this, right? Because you know, people do treat you different, and so you got to act different in accordance with that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just being a hoser. Nobody's looking for that.
Father, one of the two priests we went to a parish with not the parish we usually go to. We stayed with some friends over at Triduum, and so there's two priests at their parish, and one of them, I was just cracking up because I mean, the guy, he just like rattles, he just like runs through stuff, and I was thinking, you know, he probably thought, all right, look, I am consecrated to the priesthood. I can administer sacraments that no one else can, and I have like a limited amount of lifetime. So we're just gonna crank them out. So it's just like, I'm gonna bless you, I'm gonna bless you, I'm gonna bless you. And it's like, you want to go to confession? We're gonna get everyone through confession. You're just like, there's just such an efficiency about it where he's just like, you could just tell he's thinking like, how much grace can I bring into the world with my priesthood like today? It's really great.
So he was moving quickly, but he wasn't impatient.
No, it's a remarkable thing. Yeah. He was moving with something approximating the speed of the heavens.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know what things are like down there, but if they're spread thin, you know, like right now, I'm at a parish with 3 priests. We got a ton of people here, but I've got enough time to do the work I need to do, and
That's
also
good.
just frivolously hop on YouTube every Sunday night. So I don't think it's fundamentally frivolous for me to have this relationship with you guys, but this isn't a part of my job either. But yeah, I think once I take 1 or 2 steps up, it'll be I'll be a little bit more like that, where more people, you know, it's like my boss is super busy, whereas I'm kind of mostly busy.
No, I mean it's so great. Like, you know, it's like we've got a diocesan priest here who's covering 3 parishes, and you're like, it's just, that's hard. It shouldn't be that way. Like, it, you know, to have that mindset when you're in a situation like that of, you know, I'm going to try to take care of everyone sacramentally is great, but like that's not all that it is, right? And like the opportunity to be able to have relationships with the people that you're around, and, you know, give spiritual counsel, and, you know, in all those situations. That's, I mean, yeah, I'd love to have a couple of sons that are priests, and, you know, maybe have some vocations in the family. Like, definitely would like that. Like, we could definitely use. I'm all on board with more praise and letting there be a little bit, maybe more slowness to it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when we had, you know, like I think especially like in St. Paul, right? During World War II, the Archbishop there promised any priest who went and became a military chaplain that they would get a parish when they got back. And
Yeah.
you know, and like back in the day, like 40s and 50s, like you were an assistant for like 14 or 16 years before getting your own parish, which is just like, holy mackerel. At least maybe that wasn't the case everywhere, but it was a case in like Detroit. I remember one of the old priests talking to us like, yeah, you had to be a priest for 14 years before you got your own parish. And so they just built all these little neighborhood churches because these priests were promised parishes. And it's like, gosh, if I just had, you know, 500 people, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to get to know everybody. That's not real. I mean, but I can know everybody by reputation and face. And that's all. That's all. You don't have to do these. But because we're so short on priests, where you have to build these mega parishes in order to fit everybody in, get people the Eucharist and all that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Interesting. Times are what they are.
they are what they are.
Yeah.
We make do. We figure it out. I'm not overworked. Like I've heard some of these priests in Mexico, they got to do 14 masses on a Sunday.
No.
That's great.
No.
So it's like, as much as I might want to complain every once in a while, your priest's 3 parishes are relatively easy compared to what some of these guys are doing, man.
That's
It's against the
wild.
rules, by the way, but you know, the rules have to be enforced in order for them. But yeah,
Wow.
this guy, he grew up in Fargo here, and he became a priest down in Mexico, and he's got like 42,000 Catholics in his territory.
Crazy.
Whoa.
So, and then cartels keep on whacking priests, right? Like over 80 have been killed in the past 10 years in Mexico. So it's just,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, makes Arkansas seem real nice, doesn't it?
Oh, I mean, Arkansas is great. I love Arkansas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. That's really wild, Father. I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. That's really something. 14 in a day. That's when you're grateful for the brevity of the Roman Rite.
That's when you're grateful for the brevity, the storied brevity of the Roman Rite. You don't have to sit there and chant for 2.5 hours to do things properly.
Yeah. When I get the chance, I do sit there and chant for 2 hours, two or 3 hours. But yeah, wow.
A supply chain issue. Yeah, you could say that. You know, you could also say that he who sows sparingly will reap sparingly. He who sows generously will reap a bountiful reward. That's what I'd say. So say liberation theology is garbage, but you know.
Oh my goodness. That's wild.
Chad, be at peace. Be at peace, Chad.
Amazing.
So, Andrew, any highlights from your Pascha? Anything you noticed?
Just from Pascha, it's pretty interesting how like the reading mirrors the service, right? So, we read Mary Magdalene coming to the tomb and then finding it empty, and then she goes to the apostles, and then the whatever apostles all run out. I'm trying to remember how like the actual service mirrored that, but you know how like we read the tomb being empty, and then we have the, you know, everyone goes to the sanctuary, and then the whole like tearing the veil, you know, everyone starts chanting Christos Anesti and whatnot.
We don't have that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But it sounds cool, and I'm here
Yeah.
for it. But we don't have that. We do that differently. But yeah. So I mean, you're going to a Coptic church, right?
Yeah.
And now, do they have the iconostasis up between
Yeah.
the nave and the sanctuary? And so, do they put a curtain over the iconostasis?
There's like a specific part where it has a veil.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that there year round, or?
Yeah, pretty much. And then, you know, after the resurrection, they leave it open for like 50 days ish, and then
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's neat.
Interesting.
That is cool.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't. So yeah, with the veiling of the images on Passion Sunday, I got the connection between that and the reading on Passion Sunday, Christ hiding himself. I did not get the connection between they're removing all of the veils from the images in the church and the curtain being torn in two. That's interesting. I need to think about that.
Yeah.
And Andrew, is the first reading in the Paschal service Genesis 1, like the beginning of Genesis? Did you read the creation account?
I don't think so. It's kind of, I don't know. For us, Matins bleeds into like the actual service, so I don't know when Matins ended and the proper stuff began.
Yeah.
But it starts with the procession, I think. So that's neat. All the deacons come out with a giant cross and a bunch of images of the resurrection. So you kind of know what you're getting into.
Did you guys light a fire?
No, afraid not.
All righty. Well, Roman Rite's got something cool that the Coptics don't. You come to us on the Easter Vigil, we light a fire. We got a bonfire, and no marshmallows, just candles.
Oh, wonderful. We had candles too. They're all electronic though. Yeah. What can you do though?
You complain until you get real candles. That's what you can do. I mean, we're giving 5-year-olds candles here. They got a little wax catcher, but it's there's going to be some spills. It's pretty inevitable.
Well, then when you're holding like 2 candles that are lit and your missal and an almost 2-year-old, I started melting the plastic on those catchers. It was like I looked down, and it's like black and then melting. I was like, oh. But when they turned the lights on at midnight in that church, there was so much candle smoke and so much incense. It was awesome. Like, it felt like one of those descriptions of like
you guys timed it so that the Gloria came at midnight.
I wasn't looking at a watch, but it was somewhere around there. Yeah,
Dude,
and it was like
awesome.
All the lights. Yeah, they start the mass. They start the mass right at midnight, and which is rough on the kids, but it's pretty cool symbolically. Yeah, and it's like it's just been candlelight in the church. It was candlelight all the way through, and then I don't even know when they did this, but they pulled all the purple veils off of everything, and then they blast all the lights on, and like I don't know how many bells they were ringing, and it was just like, and for the Gloria, and so it's just like you've been in there for like 2 or 3 hours, and then it's like blazing lights, and like the whole room is just filled with smoke because of all the incense and the candles. And yeah, it was I wouldn't say that I was in a position to like appreciate it on like an intellectual level, but like it was something. Like you felt like you could walk through a doorway,
Yeah, that's right. Because in the Easter Vigil, all of the lessons come before you actually start Mass. In the extraordinary form. They're not integrated into the Mass like they are in the ordinary form. So now I'm starting to put it all together.
Yeah, you've got 4 big prophecies, which when you think about, I've been really mulling on what those are. And the first one is the creation account, and it I don't know. Did I just lose you guys? I think I just lost you.
I'm here.
Oh, great. Okay, my screen just froze up. At any rate, the fact that like you start Christ's resurrection with as far as I know, the only time of the year when we read the creation of the world. Is it, Father, either of you might know this, is it St. Ephraim the Syrian that says that when Christ is dying?
Now we lost
him. But I think he's actually going for St. Maximus the Confessor.
When Christ is dying, he's making the world, right? Something like that.
I like J.S. Bach, the Baroque Lutheran composer. Who would be his Catholic equivalent? Like, who would the Catholics send in the Baroque era if there was a match for best composer? You're revealing a little bit of my ignorance here. Would it be Haydn? I think he was like Austrian, wasn't he? Looks like we're gonna have to look this up. Oh. Yeah, I think this might be your. Ooh, he's what is he? 1732 to 1809. So I think he would be after Bach. Yeah. Okay. Do we got to go a little bit earlier? So I don't know. I think when we go earlier than Haydn, you end up just getting. I mean, I think Mozart was Catholic too, but I guess the guy I would send in, and this might not match up the eras properly, but that would be Palestrina. Um, Palestrina was kind of the guy as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I mean, look, everybody can and should love Bach. So I don't know if we've got anybody from his era um, that would match him. So there isn't another as big as Bach. Palestrina is great, Charlie. Thank you. I think you're looking for Maximus the Confessor, Ted.
Mm-hmm.
When
Yeah,
Christ was
that
on the
he
cross,
was creating the world while he was hanging on the cross.
Boy. Okay.
Well, now think about this, Ted. Think about this. Did you have dinner tonight? All right.
Yeah.
What was your dinner?
It was a roast chicken. It was
Alrighty.
delicious.
That chicken had to be sacrificed in order to feed you and your family, right?
Yeah.
And there's literally nothing exists without some kind of sacrifice.
Yeah. No, I'll buy it. I mean, he's the lamb slain before the foundations of the world. Yeah. They would even mix. People used to mix sacrificial animal blood into the mortar of buildings, like when you're laying the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So that's one aspect of that statement right there.
Yeah.
A mass is actually kind of like a standard composition that people would do. So you could even get like a mass by Leonard Bernstein, and I don't know if anybody's ever actually used it in a liturgy, but it's a standard set of texts that you would set to music. And Ligeti, right? This ultra crazy, ultra weird 20th century composer. His Kyrie eleison was the music on the moon from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Which, if you remember that, it sounded like a roaring beehive. It's like, yeah, that is Vivaldi. I'm not the right person to ask about classical music. But yes, Vivaldi was a priest.
Sure. Never knew that.
Yeah. I hope he was a good priest too. You never know.
Wouldn't you hope every priest is a good priest, Father?
Yeah. I just know lots of priests.
Oh my goodness.
Shapes and sizes.
Oh my goodness. That is fascinating. That I tried to make it through 2001: The Space Odyssey, and actually, I think the young people would call it rage quitting. I rage quit in that one scene where he's like floating across the length of the spaceship in like a wide angle, and there's just the sound of like hissing gas and him breathing. And I think I got 90 seconds into that scene. He hadn't made it halfway, and I was just like, I'm done with this movie. I loved the book, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. Someone was asking Bird. Yeah, birds masses are beautiful. They're not the kind of thing that. Yeah, I really love them, especially his mass for 4 voices and for 5 voices are just, they're exquisite, and they feel. I was talking about this with my sister. They feel so English. Like when I listen to him, like this is English Catholicism in my head. Is like William Byrd. It just, I don't know how it simultaneously feels so deeply Roman Catholic and so English at the same time.
Because England was a model Catholic country. It straight up was. It was the thinking best. You had a monastery every 3 miles, and that was your social security. You'd always have a bed and and food, right? And like, were the monks all great? No, but they still did enough of their jobs to be worthwhile to society. And Henry VIII is evil. So
I read, I wish I could remember, this sounds like something that Tom Holland would have talked about, but it wasn't him. But I read something recently that there's like the towns in England that had Cistercian monasteries, which again were all gone with by the 1500s. They're like noticeably higher on all these like things like, say, economic growth over time, levels of education, all this stuff, and like as opposed to the neighboring English towns that did not have Cistercian monasteries. And they're able to pick up these signals in terms of like basically municipal well-being 500 years later due to the presence of Cistercians in the area, which I found to be really interesting.
You've got an extremely organized and motivated workforce right there. You just got all these monks, and you've got one abbot directing them. If the abbot has any common sense, he will delegate appropriate amounts of authority to keep things running properly. And it's like, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to chant and you're going to work. There'll be some time for recreation because you're not expected to be a robot, right? But, are you going to be playing cards? Are you going to be dancing? Are you going to be drinking? No.
During Lent, you're going to be drinking.
Yes, but they're not gonna be making themselves silly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Those the people who this study that they published. That was one of their main thoughts was like basically legacy cultural changes from the way that the monks lived, carrying over into secular life around them, and then that going on down through all that time.
GDP is not the same as well-being. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's out of my wheelhouse. I don't know anything about Protestantism.
And here comes Charlie with the Keynesian economics here. Wars are excellent for economies. Just spend money. It's great. Oh, man.
Father, have you ever come across a guy named Dr. John Kudebeck by any chance?
John Kudebeck?
Kudebeck. He's out in Virginia. Okay.
I have not.
I've met him several times, and he come and talk at like small Catholic conferences, things like that. But I ran into him actually years before I became Catholic, and he had this is related to economics. This is what I'm reading. So
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Hold on a second. Is that better?
That's a lot better.
Great. I don't know where the sound is coming from, but at any rate, now I look like a hacker. Charlie, I'm in. He talked about economics as fundamentally originally being about the management of the home, right? Eco meaning the house, and however you parse that other thing out into numbers, basically. But originally it meant the management of the household. And he's kind of like a classical philosopher in the sense of like being very precise and telling you to pay attention to words that you didn't pay attention to before and thinking hard about them, just very like that kind of thing. And what was that, 6 years ago that I heard him talk about that? It's just really fascinating when you see that shift in the way that we use the word economics to talk about the economy of a country versus economics of a household, which, you're saying GDP isn't the same as well-being, and that way of thinking about economics as etymologically properly relating to a home actually is much better at getting those two together and saying, what kind of prosperity do we want? What kind of wealth do we want? Not, can we make the numbers bigger?
Yeah, better to have happy children in a small house than miserable children in a massive house, right?
You would think that everyone would say right, but
yes, all those McMansions, empty McMansions. Yeah. So, another thing about a home economy is that you can't just run up debt endlessly. There's like actually other people will help you not do that by not lending you money anymore.
You mean there becomes a correspondence between spending and value generation? Yeah, that's probably a healthy one.
And then all of your business in the home is taking place on a human scale. So you're not, it's like I remember listening to History Channel documentaries, about 19th century labor conditions, right? You've got, this matchstick factory that wanted to save money on production of matchsticks. So instead of using red phosphorus, which was slightly more expensive but 100 times safer, they used white phosphorus. And then they would also have the doors locked so that people couldn't bunch out of work early. And it was primarily employing women. And inevitably, when they switched to the white phosphorus, they had a horrible fire in the factory, and the doors were locked, so nobody could get out. So everybody died. Now, it's nice that that doesn't happen in the United States of America, but we've basically just shipped all of that garbage overseas.
Yeah, that one's tough, man. I think about Paul Kingsnorth talks about this a lot in terms of living in this giant globalized system and the rapaciousness of all of it. It's like, how are we going to deal with this? Are we going to have some like equally complex technological society that's also like eco-friendly and humane or something, or should we regulate our appetites and try to live on as small a scale as possible?
Oh, definitely the first option. Definitely the first option. There's no way in heck you can get anybody to regulate their appetites. Not ever, not never.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, oh, no wonder we're in the kind of mess that we're in. Like, it's just wild. I mean, what is this? The comment on there about changing 56 windows in a house that one person lives. Yeah, that, which I've been recently done some like earthwork around houses like this, where it's the same thing. It's like a couple and their decrepit dog, and they're like putting in a giant pool house next to their 4,500 square foot house. And you're like, but I'm sure they're all energy efficient windows, right?
I'm not against energy efficient windows, actually.
Neither am I, but I'm like, my friend calls this, he goes, it's the wrong goose. Like, you're following the wrong goose right now.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's like, in terms of, and this, again, the funny thing is like, you see all these metrics of efficiency and you're like, how efficient is it for one person to drive a Tesla? It's like a lot more efficient than one person driving an SUV. But in terms of passenger miles per gallon, take that and compare it to a family of 12 in a 15 passenger van, and they'll blow every other form of transportation out of the water.
Oh boy, yeah, but the insurance companies don't like those 15 passenger vans.
No.
We can't use them on church trips anymore. The insurance companies and the lawyers, oh gosh, they actually run the diocese. It's super depressing, but the insurance companies and the lawyers, so it's like, oh, no 12, we can't do a 12-seater van or a 15-seater van on a church trip. So we've got to like get this rickety old bus that we're taking. And it's like, oh my gosh, like just slow down on the curves for Pete's sake, people. Don't flip the van.
Oh my goodness. Father, when I was in college, yeah, that's what's the other term? What's the term for that in local maximums? That's a local maximum right there. You're like, we're getting this one efficiency, and it's like, but on the 15 passenger vans, I had an internship in college with an inner city ministry up in the Northeast, where like my third day on the job, they're like, we're going to teach you how to drive a 15 passenger van around Jersey City. Get ready. And then it was like, because next week you're driving 12 5-year-olds. It's amazing what you can do. Oh my goodness.
Wow. And even though he's late to the party, he's still the life of it. How you doing, Andrew K?
Oh, yeah, hello.
Hello.
I like that intro.
Oh goodness. Did you have a good misa in Albies today?
A A what now?
So in the old mass, today was called either Low Sunday or Misa in Albis.
Well, I think I had a regular mass today, not one of those. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I guess you had a Misa de Albis
Well, I was wearing my off-white Life of Christ chasuble.
or Misa
I
de
can,
Albis.
yeah. So it was off-white. I've got a picture of it actually. I'll
Oh,
throw it up here.
right.
Liturgy and Finery. Here we go.
Isn't that like ivory color?
Here we go. Present. I'm going to start this from the beginning. Trust me, this is definitely going to have a payoff here.
This is one nice
There's-
looking. Oh, okay.
There's my Life of Christ chasuble here. So
Wonderful.
starts off with the Annunciation, and then we've got the birth of our Lord. You got the presentation, the baptism in the Jordan, transfiguration, and on the reverse side, it finishes the life of Christ. So
Wow, those are some nice pictures.
and Charlie's pastor was wearing a button down and jeans. The mega church wins again. Man, if that's winning, I'm happy to be a loser.
I wasn't wearing that today. I wasn't wearing jeans, but I wasn't wearing that. So don't know where that puts me.
Puts you right where you belong, I think.
All right. So I just hopped in. I heard you guys talking about buses.
Yeah, driving a bunch of 5-year-olds to a swimming pool in Jersey City, right?
On a bus? Wait, you went all the way to Jersey City?
Ted did some kind of an internship there.
Oh,
Years.
okay.
This is years ago. Years and years ago, back when I was a young man, and had the energy to herd 25-year-olds that aren't mine around. So, yeah. Those it was fascinating how adaptable I was, because I think, when I was driving around those streets, you've got 18 inches of clearance on either side with a bunch of parked cars, and you're like, if I was in Arkansas, I would think that this is absolutely impossible, but because it's normal here, you just do it. I'm like, it's fine. You'll manage.
Most Americans out in the country have no idea what size their vehicles are. It's never relevant what size your vehicle is, right?
Yeah.
And it's not until you're like in a city and you like start practicing a little bit and you're like, yeah, I'm about 3 inches away from those cars over there. And you just do it, And usually you don't get in an accident. You have no idea what it's like out here in the sticks, Andrew K.
No.
I'm sure you're used to squeezing your vehicles through tiny New England alleyways.
Yeah, sometimes.
You can take your dually toner pickup truck and open all the doors and then just drive down the highway like that if you want to.
I've seen some interesting trucks on the highway that have like double wheels on each side, and it looks like they try to make the truck as wide as possible, and I'm not sure why.
It's called the dually. It gives you more traction.
Yeah. And
All right.
so those, Andrew, if you want me to go way more in depth than you probably want to know, a lot of the bigger trailers on small trucks, they're called a gooseneck, and it transfers the load into the middle of the bed right over the rear axle. And so we've got 4 tires. Maybe this is an Arkansas thing. I don't know.
We call them fifth wheels. We call them fifth wheels.
Yeah, fifth wheels are goosenecks. Yeah, fifth wheels.
I've never heard it called the gooseneck before. That's just an Arkansas thing that I'm delighting in
interesting.
right now.
They look like a gooseneck.
I've heard the gooseneck thing, I think.
Yeah. So, at any rate,
Amazing.
the tires give you way more extra traction and weight distribution because they'll put a ton of weight on there. But 3 or 4 months ago at our parish, I don't know who this was, but someone was there with, I kid you not, an 8-seater dually F350. I was like, I don't know what this is, but I want it so bad.
Did it have a full bed on it too?
Full bed, 6-door full bed. I was like, where did this come from?
It came from every environmentalist's nightmare. Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
Wow.
it was not fitting in the parking spot.
No, you get 2 parking spots automatically with that. I want to see if that's standard.
Trust me, Father. Well, it's not. I looked. They're all mad expensive custom jobs.
Okay, it's a custom job. Okay, you
Yeah.
were like,
I mean, I
can I
really
just go
went
to the
home.
dealer and get this?
I went home and looked it up online to see if we could get one.
Oh
Hilarious.
my gosh, that's amazing. See, my dad had a full-size Chevy 3500, a 2000 Chevy 3500 that I got to drive to high school because he had a much longer drive than I did, and he didn't want to pay for all that gas there. So it had the crew cab and it had the full bed, and I felt like I was parking an aircraft carrier.
That's so great. Oh my goodness.
Mega cab 350s, man. Oh, what a time to be alive! What a time to be alive. Now,
For sure.
we got a question here in the chat that I've been meaning to come back to. Muslims forbid usury. What do Catholics say about usury? And this is actually a really interesting question.
Mhm.
I don't know the full answer to it, but apparently the last papal condemnation of usury came in like 1734, and the church has been silent on the issue ever since. And I don't know what that means. So one of these days, I'm going to get to the bottom of it and figure things out. But until then, yeah, apparently, like the first, I don't know, apparently Franciscans were known for small business loans back in the later Middle Ages with reasonable interest rates, and nobody condemned them for it. It'd be like 1 or 2% interest on the small business loan. And then there's like a difference between whether or not the loan is guaranteed personally or not. I've never been able to get to the bottom of it. So anyway,
Father,
I could probably find you an interesting corner of the internet where you could ask some questions about it, but the answer is it's complicated.
have you heard the distinction? Someone asked me about this and I was reading about it. Have you heard the distinction between like loans for money that will generate more money versus loans for like living expenses? Because that was one of the distinctions that I had heard. It was like, say someone, you get a loan to like make a small business per se. That's not usury. But if you get a loan because like you're between jobs and need money to pay for your family's food, that would be usury to charge interest on that.
Right. I
Have you
remember
heard that distinction.
Thomas Aquinas saying that it's forbidden, it's a sin to lend money out at usury, but it's not always a sin to get loaned money with usury. So that's a distinction that I remember is in Aquinas. The problem is that Aquinas wasn't dealing with modern economics, so I'm sure his principles would hold up. I just don't know how to apply them because, like, all of this finance stuff, like what's a credit default swap, and how do you get the money out of people for that?
Question.
I don't know. Why are stocks so expensive? Are they actually worth that amount of money? I don't know. I
That's
just
a
try
good
not
question.
to worry about it. Make sure that I don't spend more money than I have. That's how I handle my economics. So, yeah. USA does have an astronomical debt to the money lenders, and it's a Protestant country, though. It's a Protestant Christianity. I don't think it's ever wondered about. I don't think it's ever wondered about usury.
Mhm.
Maybe it has. Maybe there's. I bet you the radical Reformation's all against usury. I bet you the Mennonites and the Hutterites and the Anabaptists and the Amish, they probably don't do any usury. So they probably got it figured out. I'm literally guessing, though. I have no idea. So don't. Don't. You signing off, Ted?
I'm going to sign off. It was a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. That Andrew K, you've got to go back and watch the beginning of this video when he starts talking about Go Dog Go. It's amazing.
Go dog go. Is that why Laura said that?
Yeah, it's
This right here.
amazing. That whole bit there was like we should
Oh,
just
I've
make
read
that
that
a clip.
already. I think
Well,
I'm
read
good.
it again with fresh eyes with Ted.
Well, oh my goodness. Yeah. Y'all have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your Eastertide and look forward to Pentecost.
Looking forward to Pentecost. That's right. What is the impetus behind Michelangelo painting God the Father? He had forgotten the tradition and was arrogant, and he painted God the Father. I don't know. It was the Renaissance. People were going nuts all over the place.
All sorts of stuff.
Oh man, it's just. Don't paint God the Father. And Andrew K, when you're designing your churches, no images of God the Father. If you need to, you can have a hand coming down from heaven. We can deal with that.
Okay.
Got it. You got that? Got it. Good.
I can redo the Sistine Chapel if you'd like.
Literally, if you redid the Sistine Chapel, but instead of the Father, it was Christ, I'd be pretty amenable to it.
All right.
Like, we don't have to do that big a fix. All righty. On usury, John Calvin says it's not an outright ban, but don't you dare take advantage of the poor. That sounds nice. Pageau blames particularity, but isn't the incarnation of the ultimate expression of particularity? Well, if you look at like some of this Ian McGilchrist stuff, is that they'll point at the late Middle Ages and the Renaissance as a point where you've got the left brain. The left brain is all into particulars. The left brain creates a virtual space where you can break things into pieces and play with them. Also handles processing grammar. The right brain is the continuous processing, actually connects to the world, and should be the one piloting the ship. So McGilchrist in his book says that the later Middle Ages and the Renaissance was one of those points where the influence of the left brain started overtaking the rightful balance and making itself kind of known there. So I think that's the sort of particularity that Pageau is talking about there, because he has, if you've listened to his conversation with Ian McGilchrist, Pageau basically says, I agree with 98% of everything that you've said about this over separating. So there's a way of doing particularity where you're separating something from its appropriate context, right? And that's what the right brain is able to manage to do, is it's actually able to contextualize things, place them where they belong. The left brain doesn't have that capability. It's not that speciality. So I think it's that sort of particularity that Pageau is pointing at that takes things out of their context. But if you've got like a link of where he trashes Michelangelo, which is a hearty pastime that I will encourage for anyone, I'd be interested to see the way he explains that. So that's my take. But yeah, the incarnation is the ultimate expression of particularity, but it's one of those things where things are really held in tension there, because it's like the whole of the human race, everybody everywhere, is able to locate themselves in Christ, not in spite of his particularity, but because of his particularity, right? Because it had to happen in history, otherwise we wouldn't believe it. And so the particularity is like it's like a funnel through which we get to the universality of the entire body of Christ across the world. I hope that made sense to somebody besides me. I don't know, Andrew. What do you think?
That sounds fairly Pageauian.
Okay.
What about you, other Andrew?
I think Jacob would disagree with you, but what can you do, huh?
Jacob disagrees with me all the time,
Uh,
so he still lets me use his StreamYard.
yep,
Enlightenment's overrated,
yep.
but still good. I wouldn't go back. So, it's more like we've got to integrate the Enlightenment, and sometimes the Enlightenment doesn't want to be integrated. But
Yeah.
I happen to be a fan of living in a world where we can do surgery with anesthesia. So I don't want to go back to.
Did they not have anesthesia because it was the Enlightenment, or?
No. The scientific revolution helped us discover anesthesia.
I see. Okay. I thought you were
So
saying you don't want to go back to Renaissance because they didn't have anesthesia.
no. Well, yeah.
Phew. Glad we got that cleared up.
Yeah, the Enlightenment doesn't happen without the incarnation. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. God's providence orders all things. We should just be at peace and let history happen and try to align ourselves with Christ properly. All my children would be dead if we went back. I'm not saying go back. I'm not saying go back. I don't know how to resolve these technological issues, right? Because we just seem to be addicted to technological solutions to spiritual problems. But I don't think the answer is go back to a time before technology. This is another point that Pageau's made that I really appreciate is that, so Andrew, either of you,
Okay.
in the biblical story, who founds the first city?
Cain?
Cain is the founder of the first city. So what do you think the Bible's
Yes.
attitudes towards cities are at that point?
Evil.
They're not good, right? It's like Cain was the first one, right? And you see, if you haven't seen Pageau's video on the Book of Enoch, like go ahead and turn this off and go
Excellent.
watch that because that's some top quality stuff right there. This technology and this amplification of our power does not tend to do us any good. But in the final chapters of the Bible, we see the holy city, Jerusalem, come down out of heaven. And so this whole thing with the technology of the city gets redeemed in the end. It gets redeemed by Jesus. So basically, if you're just showing up and trying to do what you think the Lord is calling you to, that's enough. The list of problems people interpret as spiritual is getting dangerously short. Yeah. Yep. And it looks like a golden Borg cube. Get that right, Phlebas. In the Book of Revelation, it's a golden Borg cube that comes out of heaven. You kids don't even know what a Borg cube is, do you?
Nope.
That's one of those cubes from Star Trek, isn't it? And they eat people's brains and shoot lasers and stuff.
You get integrated into the Borg.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was a huge Next Gen fan as a kid. So this is a Borg cube. They were giant. They like the Enterprise would be like the size of my cursor in comparison to it.
Okay.
And the Borg would come and they'd have
Actually
these
didn't know
crazy
that.
shields, and you wouldn't be able to until they figured out a clever way to do there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Resistance is futile. Resistance is futile. But Belvis and Sally Joe are on the same thing. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Yeah, that's fake unity right there, right? That is best sci-fi enemy, probably the most potential. I don't know if the Star Trek writers ever actually fully brought out everything they could have done with the Borg. Oh, these are my people here. You will be. They're just quoting Star Trek right back at me. So yeah, the New Jerusalem is not going to be a Borg cube. It's going to be beautiful.
Well, that satisfies all my fears of heaven. I was really afraid it was going to be a huge Borg cube.
Yeah, here we go. There it is. That's what it's going to look like.
Oh, okay.
I think that's a Muslim image right there. All right, now I'm just curious. Oh, check that out. What a time to be alive. Look at what Photoshop has produced.
We have architects in heaven. Do a bit of design there.
It looks like Oz.
Wow.
The Borg cube is beautiful. Okay, Charlie. You just keep Oh, Sally Joe, don't tell me what to do. I will not be tolerant. Not unless I have to. Oh,
Not sure about the Borg cube thing.
yeah. No, I've really touched a nerve with the chat here in this Borg distinct discussion. So
Oh yeah.
it better make sure that gets put into the updated title.
Of the next Star Trek?
No. I update the titles of these live streams so it's not just
Oh,
Sunday
okay.
night open mic over and over again.
So now it's going to be Go Borg Cube Go.
It might be. That'd be a great name. Yeah, the woke
Oh,
Borg.
gee.
Right, so like the Borg are like the perfect symbol of a mindless ideology. So you just, you're, they've got it. Your biological and technological distinctiveness is added to their own, but your entire individuality and personality is in there. Oh, yeah, the woke Borg will add you to our own. Yeah, I sure hope not. I've never watched Deep Space Nine. They made the Pope and evil woman. Oh, that's too bad.
They made the Pope?
They made the Pope and evil woman.
Oh.
The Deep
I
Space
thought you
Nine.
said and evil woman.
Well, he did type that, but that was just a typo.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to become tolerant. You can't make me. Yes. All right. I'll be intolerant then. You just go ahead. Nope.
Oh, we lost Andrew.
We lost Andrew. It's okay. We've got a spare Andrew ready to go.
Yeah, that's right. We always got an Andrew waiting on deck just in case. Gotta keep the supply.
You keep the supply of Andrew. I mean, what it means manly, right? We need more of that. So
Strong and manly.
yeah. Deep Space Nine is not Pope. Glad to hear it. Because as much as 90s sci-fi is good, it's not all good. Oh, snap. This is a rare treat, ladies and gentlemen. We got Mark F.
I was tempted by the Deep Space Nine chat.
Well, you're going to have to fill the space because I know very little about it.
I think... Oh, no, I haven't seen that one. I've seen Voyager. That's it.
Ah! No. Come back.
He's offended, I think.
I wanted him to talk. I bet you it's his wife.
Haven't even seen Deep Space Nine. SMH, father. I'm out of here.
I forgot to turn off the stream, and I turned off the wrong thing.
Okay.
So the funny part is I've been trying to write an article on how to do like a properly spiritual character, and they're talking about do you remember Ro Laren from The Next Generation, Father?
Ro Laren, the Ensign Ro.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything about her, but I remember the name.
Okay, so she's a Bajoran, and that's the big thing about Deep Space Nine is part of the conflict resolves around the occupation of Pageau by the Cardassians, who basically, they came in, they raped the planet, and then left. And who she's talking about is the Kai, who is the spiritual leader of Pageau, but she's more like the Dalai Lama than the Pope.
Yes.
And
not Space Pope. No.
Exactly. The big thing for me is that the Bajorans are like the secular person's idea of what a religious person does, where it's like, let me pray about this. It's like, oh Christ. Like it's not good. It's not good.
The wormhole aliens that tell you stuff from the future because they're outside time.
My contention is that the Klingons are actually what a spiritual people look like. Where
I think so.
they don't have any distinction that this is not true. They act 100% like this is what you do. This is the way the universe works, and I will not be argued about with this. This is just apparent, right?
Well,
And
the
go ahead.
Borg are religious because the Borg are seeking perfection and they're after the absolute perfection thing. And that is like the people poo-poo Voyager, which I mean, sure, fine, yes, everything that would be wrong if a female was captain, because that is actually how it would be. But don't pay attention to that story and pay attention to the 7 of 9 story that's in that story, because that is a freaking great story.
Yeah, she is like
Oh,
pushing for perfection, and it's kind of like the ultimate secular
yeah.
transhumanist horror is what the Borg are.
Well, and that's her last that's 7 of 9's last hook back into the Borg. She knows she doesn't want to be Borg. She knows she wants to be an individual, but she can't help it. She still is enamored with their pursuit of perfection. And that is like totally the way atheism is. Like, it's such a freaking interesting thing. It's like, yeah. It's kind of like Data's brother, who I should remember his name.
Lore.
Yeah, thinking he was better than people. Like, it just, oh, so good.
Yeah.
I don't think I've watched Star Trek in like maybe 3 whole years.
Watch it almost every night.
No, like I had, like, you got to quit that at some point. I did watch Andromeda recently, but I was actually watching.
Oh, so cringy.
Oh, but I was actually watching it because now I understand the philosophy references, and I didn't understand the philosophy references when I had watched it before. And the fascinating thing about freaking Andromeda now to me is, why are the Nietzscheans the only people in the entire series that are pro-family?
Because they're genetic racists.
So they're like, they're gonna survive because they're the only ones having kids. Like, they're the only ones that's like, I gotta make it to my son's 10th birthday. You know, he's my 14th. Like, yeah, like, adorable. Like, they're like, what the heck? What's going on? I don't even know.
I think that's exactly what's going on. Like, who's having kids these days? Religious people.
It's going to be a self-resolving problem if no one else does.
Well, you
Right,
know, funny you bring that up. Sorry, Father. Go ahead.
Yeah, the only way that the evil ones can really have kids is, you know, by luring them out to a gingerbread house in the middle of the woods and stuffing them in an oven. That's an image of
the thing is, lots of things are becoming brightly colored, and it is not unrelated.
But listen, houses aren't made out of gingerbread. Just
No.
remember that. Remember that houses are not made out of gingerbread.
I'll tell my son that. He won't believe me, though.
Things that are candy coated are just really, like, anything that's candy colored is starting to scream, I'm poisonous.
Horrid red things.
Anyway.
Right? But Father, you make an interesting thing, that because it kind of coincides with this book I've been reading, and this whole thing that's gone on in Israel with the judicial reforms, and that it's almost where you're looking at that demographic wave in Israel is kind of preceding what's happening here, where all the people who had kids, now they have voting power, and they're trying to take over against the old guard who don't have any kids or don't have as many kids, and they're in the, you know, I don't want to say secular parts, but they're in the non-democratic parts of the country and trying to hold out against an oncoming wave.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, yeah. Oh, Andrew needs a StreamYard link. Here we go. Yeah. It's just not fun to be in that inflection point or to be before that inflection point.
Yeah, you feel like you're the underdog. You're getting pounded on.
Yeah.
Having your church set on fire. We still haven't fixed that.
Yeah, I'm sure money's tight.
We did get cameras installed, though.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, there was a statue vandalization I think about 3 or 4 years ago, a pretty bad one, outdoor statue, and they've actually restored and repaired the statue instead of just getting a new one, which I'm happy about. Yeah, we're gonna mute you if you're gonna be like that, Andrew T.
On the build site.
Yeah, on the build site. Oh man.
I will tell you what's really weird though. This is the second time our father has mentioned me and my son in a sermon. I'm like,
You
oh,
in particular?
yeah, me in particular, like pointing to me and pointing to my son. Like, oh,
Is it like, look at our families, or
yeah,
is it
no, like
like,
specifically, like, he came into the church, he didn't know anything, he read his way here, he knows more than you.
oh,
Oh, okay.
Perhaps you should learn more. It's like, oh,
oh, okay.
Oh dear.
I don't think I would do that.
or like, I think part of it was I mean, I'm paraphrasing badly for comedic effect, but it was more like, you don't know the thing you grew up with, and he knows it because he didn't grow up with it. So you should
Mhm.
dig deep into that grace that you were given and appreciate it more.
I hate that from the pulpit. It makes me so salty because it's not like it was your plan to grow up in the church and not have a blessed conversion story.
I didn't have a blessed conversion.
Well, but I mean, like, what are you supposed to do? It's like, yes, I was born here and I stayed and I didn't leave. Oh no, like, this is just like a weird thing. Like, yeah, you could learn more. Like, I'm sure. Like, it's like, yeah, but that just, I don't see how that helps.
Like the fish that doesn't know the water. Yeah, I mean, like I can feel my brother up there in Canada, that like you're not just a
Can you hear
Catholic
his
just
Nigerian
because
accent too?
Yeah, yeah. He's Nigerian. Okay, that puts a lot into context there. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, this isn't just something that you don't get the inheritance just by being here. You've got to unlock it. That's not the right way to phrase it. I'll come up with a better way to phrase it soon. Campus group that does believer baptism, and a lot of the guys are new. In my defense, Sally, I was 14, and Kai Wynn sure looked like the Pope. So
But that's what I think they tried to make her like the Pope, right? And like the Dalai Lama, I don't think has the same sort of teaching authority that the successor of St. Peter does.
I don't know. If you pay attention to it, it's so much more like not just Buddhism, but specifically California hipster Buddhism. Definitely.
100%. That's basically what the Bajorans are.
Yeah. And,
I mean, that's probably the religion that the writers of Star Trek had access to.
Yeah.
They're better because they're the underdogs, right? That was the freaking like that was there's a lot of annoying under things with like it's really interesting that Starfleet could exist at all and not be the bad guy.
That's what Deep Space Nine is towards the end, right?
It was a special time, like when there actually could be a Starfleet and they could be the biggest thing out there and they could be the good guy. Like, yeah, like
that was America in the early 90s,
Yeah, 19.
H.W. Bush could have said, "Mission accomplished. We don't need all this military spending anymore. We beat the commies.
We should have just went straight to space then. That's the problem.
Go to space then, right?
Should have went to space.
Instead, we just had to go be the world police.
We got distracted and the Vulcans didn't show up.
That's true. We didn't have Zephyr and Cochrane dancing drunk.
Yeah. Now, here's the question. Do you like First Contact Zephyr Cochrane or original series Zephyr Cochrane better?
Oh, First Contact.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like some of that 60s idealism, that this man was just a real vision. But that's like the difference between the 60s and the 90s is you could just have unironic visionaries in the 60s, And like by the 90s, it's like, oh, we got to take these guys down a notch, huh?
I definitely liked the Next Generation like the best, like absolutely the best. I like the Klingons from them. I like the Romulans from them. Like absolutely the best. And there's cool like I like all of the stuff with Ferengis in Deep Space Nine. I love all of that. I like the Romulans in Pageau, but it's like Starfleet in Deep Space Nine. Pfft, who cares? Like,
well, that's the point, right? Is that the whole show is a not dark criticism, but it's trying to put things in a more what they consider realistic, critical eye.
yeah. Well, and it's funny though because what made Starfleet so good was it not being there.
Yes,
Like,
exactly. You can only do it once, though, and that's the problem. You can only do one show
cool.
like that. You can't have all the shows be Deep Space Nine, right? It's
No.
only good done once, kind of like the Pageau. Keep the fringe at the fringe and the center at the center.
Right, right. Oh, that's an interesting way to think about it. And that actually was where it was because the Delta Quadrant was at the fringe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, just like
That's-
because
I-
there's that quote from the second episode of the first episode of the second season, where he's like, the reason that they're saints is because they're in Eden. Out here on the frontier, there are no saints.
And see, and that's maybe why Firefly could only be one season because they were the fringe people was the focus of the show.
I mean, besides the horrendous treatment they received at Fox.
I think they probably could have gotten a few. I mean, I don't know if they would have kept the pace up, but they probably could have gone 5 seasons, I think.
I mean, I loved the whole space cowboy thing, and I loved the whole like the way the Empire was trying to assert authority on the farthest reaches of the universe thing. And that is just totally my own personal biases because like
Somebody from West River, South Dakota thinking that centralized authorities are bad?
Well, I definitely think they would kill you if they were far enough away from home.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, yeah. No, I love the Firefly. I wish it could have been a bunch of seasons, but maybe it just couldn't be. Like,
did you like the movie?
Oh, yeah. I like Serenity. I liked all of it. Like, but the thing about those really, really wild Western stories is they were really short. Like, you only get to rob the feds and run to a different state for like a short amount of time. Like, you either settle down and change everything or you're done in like not too long. Like, that's the thing about like the hero bank robber or Robin Hood or anything like that. You're gonna die quick. It's a short story.
King David had to become king.
Yeah, it has to change or burn away. Like,
Yeah,
it's not
childish things.
Yeah. Like the people with really long narratives are quite dull. It's like, and he raised wheat for 75 years. Now his son Argus also raises at the same fields. One year they had a blight infestation, but they burnt it. Like, that's the really boring, like the really long stories are boring like that. Like, but there's a lot.
Doesn't sound so bad.
But well, the thing is, like, how many sweet summers did they have? Like, if you just raise wheat and you get to watch how much sunrise and sunset do you get? That's
Yeah.
Quite a few, I guess.
Well, that's the thing, right? I think it was Charles C.W. Cook from NR had put this out. The goal of a good polity is to make life boring.
They're doing pretty good then.
Right? Like that's generally the goal, but we aren't piano keys, so we start trying to break things.
Well, so in Tolkien in the Silmarillion, they talk about Malkor, who started affecting the creation of the world. And some of Malkor's creations were good, like fire and ice. And I think about that because when you're thinking about is all the pain, suffering, and horror in existence worth it for existence to exist? And when you get to struggling with why, because you will at some point if you're paying attention, struggle with why. I think one of the reasons could be the the contrast that it allows you to comprehend, because I don't know that you actually could comprehend the contrast without it. And it's pretty bitter medicine, but it might be effective.
Well, I think you reasoned your way to the same thing that C.S. Lewis did, that one of his ideas is that it allows courage to exist, where if there wasn't evil, there'd be no courage.
Maybe. I don't know. I struggle with C.S. Lewis. He's very much like a dry saltine cracker. And I want
Really?
to appreciate his nutritional value, but I really have a hard time with it.
He's so readable, though. I'm surprised.
I'll tell you what I did like of his. I liked Whispers from a Silent Planet and the space trilogy. I liked that very, very much. But as far as his nonfiction stuff, it's like a dry saltine cracker. I have tried. I don't know how many times I have tried. I have tried both in the paperback book and audiobook to listen to Mere Christianity, and my brain just goes, nah. And I want to, though, because Paul, if only to talk to Paul about it, Paul Vanderklay, because he just is convinced it's the best thing ever, and my brain just goes, nah. And that just could be a quirk in me.
Yeah, it might be the case that Paul needs Miracles by C.S. Lewis in a way that you don't.
Well, maybe I do, and my inability to get through it is a personal problem. But
Well, that would be really horrible. Is that if you needed something and God hadn't equipped you in order to receive it? That would be awful.
I'm sure it wouldn't just be like a plan. I could probably be doing something dumb, but I just haven't figured out what it is yet in order to stop. I'm not going to lay that at God. I'm sure I can mess it up.
Yeah, and not every book's for everybody, you know.
Well,
like here's the thing. I don't think everybody needs to read Aquinas. I don't think I love Aquinas. I don't think everybody needs to read him.
Bold statement.
No, I have actually found some of my best hope fodder was from like Dan Carlson's whole hardcore history and like Jocko Willink, and like sometimes when you already get to a dark place, the acknowledgement of the darkness is a deep and sweet relief. Because when you're with a bunch of people that are like, oh no, it's fine, so things just happen, it'll be okay, and they're not acknowledging horror, it makes you feel crazy inside. And like when we pulled out of Afghanistan, and I was pretty mentally aware of how many people were going to be butchered because of it, and I was not coping with it very well, I ended up watching Don the Pleb, who is a
I know him.
Dysregulated Marine. That was what I was trying to say. But sometimes when I'm having dysregulated military problems, the only thing that can calm another vet down is listening to another dysregulated military person. And when that went down, he did like, I don't know how many hour live stream just to basically talk people down. It'd be like, yeah, it sucks. It's real. It's happening. We know. Yes. And it was good because that's what I need. I needed somebody to just be like, yep, it sucks for this and this and this and this reason. And
rather than Biden administration shills talking about how this is all actually wonderful.
Yeah. Like, oh, I mean, the fact, nope, not going to say things like that on stream. I am going back in my box.
Have fun in your box, Sally.
I need my box sometimes. Sometimes you got to have a box.
It is good to have a box that you can put all the things that YouTube isn't ready for in there.
Very upsetting. And you should take great comfort in the restraint of capable people and know it is deeply unlikely that civil anarchy is on its way, because if the people that could have dealt with that chose not to deal with that for the stability of the country, they're probably not going to take that option anytime soon, because that was kind of peak reasons for a minute there. Yes, that's a moderated way to say it. I'm happy with that.
Alrighty. Very good. I'm glad you did not become dysregulated.
Yes, I'm working on regulation. I have been for some time. Yes.
Okay. Oh my.
You have to admit your humanity that it has the capability of that in order to do that. Yes. So
Very good.
it
Very
sneaks
good.
up.
It's bad. There's some bad stuff out there. I mean, it's one of the reasons I don't watch anything to do with true crime. I don't watch any serial killer stuff, no
Nope.
murder stuff, no crime stuff, except for cops because I can laugh at people.
I had one point, I think it was like in 2011, I realized for entertainment I was watching House, the Doctor, and then Special Victims Unit, and Dexter, and something kind of serial killery, and I was like, oh, I must quit this, and started watching Scrubs again, which now I'm just like, why was I watching TV? I could have just not been watching TV. But it was actually really critical that I at least stop watching multiple dark things every day.
Yeah, when House is the least dark, that's
So
good.
is Lupus.
I'm glad you came to that realization. Oh my. You could just stop watching a TV entirely though.
Well,
Which is
I've
most of what
seen I've seen the building where they had the Dr. House building.
oh, cool.
Is that in your neck of the woods?
Yeah.
Well,
It's at Princeton.
a popular drug that nobody mentions is fiction. Because I don't drink and I don't smoke and I don't do a variety of other drugs that I kind of imagine would be fun. But I did watch gratuitous amounts of television, just gratuitous amounts for way too long. And it was a huge waste of like my teenage into almost my 30s.
You don't want to know my slash played on WoW.
Like,
you don't want to know.
No, yeah, video games could have been like that too. But no, I always just would check out into them, and like I would use sitcoms and TV shows like the way people used booze. Absolutely. I suffer no delusions. Or fiction books or whatever. And some of them were good. Like I think like some of them were good, but the way I was using them was bad. It's like you can drink whiskey or you can like drink whiskey, and like I was not using them in like a good way. And like now I almost don't read fiction. I actually just got a bunch of fiction books that I inherited, and I was like, I should really like we had a cold winter, which is like when it's completely justifiable, and I could not enjoy them just because of how much time I knew I had wasted. Yeah, doing that.
I feel you. I mean, I used to read a lot of fantasy. I've had to dip into stuff like that recently because I can't seem to power through any more hard books. Grad school kind of killed me on that. Like, 1,000 pages every week for 2 years. And then after that, you don't want to read things that take mental energy.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, going through this whole conversion thing where I pounded through City of God. I pounded through just everything I could find. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to read things that take no effort for a while. And
I almost
I'm just trying
to read because when it gets to be versus toddler, just reading gets difficult. But listening to audiobooks is pretty doable. So I've listened to quite a few audiobooks.
That's my main thing for a book that's not a classic is if I don't know if I'm ever going to read it again, I audiobook it. If I think I'm going to read it again, I might get the physical copy. Like I need to get the physical copy of Tom Holland's book just as a way to reference it. But basically, I almost never reread a book unless it's super important.
Yeah, I wonder because like I have some interest in philosophy and stuff, and I wonder sometimes how much of education material is also just completely useless sitcom information because
What's the sitcom information? Give me an example.
Okay, so like, if you're watching a show with other people that have watched a show, then you have the experiences of that show in common. And then if something happens, you can say, it's like this. Like
References.
if you've watched Scrubs, there's this stupid little saltine game that like the two main characters that are besties like play against each other. And it's like the saltine game. And like you can have, actually it was really fun when I was in Korea to have watched House. Because I would find myself talking to Koreans who functionally knew English, but didn't colloquially know English. And so I'd be trying to explain things, but then we'd both watched House and they'd watched it with subtitles. And so one time I explained sarcasm using House. I'm like, because they were like, what's sarcasm? And I'm like, and I knew they watched House. I'm like, it's like when it's funny, but it's not like the way it's funny in House. And they're like, oh, nah. Like they immediately got it. And so you have that. And that's actually a huge cultural bridge across huge amounts of society right now, is like the media that you're engaged in. But also we use like Thomas Aquinas and C.S. Lewis, and we use all this stuff. Like if you only had your relationships within your family and you only had the experiences of the relationships within your family and within your town, could you talk to other people at the same breath? But no,
I think the bandwidth would be reduced a lot.
Right. So we share these in between us things, and it has to be good at some level, but then I kind of wonder where it gets self-indulgent.
Oh, academia. That's what
Yeah.
jargon is, right?
Yeah.
Jargon is technical shorthand, where sometimes it's useful, right? Like if you're flying a plane, V2 is an important number. But if I say V2 to someone who doesn't know what that means, it doesn't mean anything. It's just
Right.
meaningless.
It was a Russian rocket platform, wasn't it?
German.
So I like to imagine that my indulgences into philosophy and learning these philosophical concepts and like all this kind of stuff, I like to imagine that they're building me up as a person. I like to imagine that they're inspiring me on my art and stuff. But then sometimes I do get suspicious that at some levels it's just like this fantasy of self-indulgence. Like if it really ever really means something, or if I would be better served by like planting petunias. I'm not sure.
No, I feel you. Because sometimes I wonder what am I doing reading this? Like,
Yeah.
Is this helping? Maybe I should just go pray another 5 decades of the Rosary. Maybe that would be better. Personally,
Well, we can't know.
who am I going to talk to? I don't talk to anybody about this. My wife, her eyes just go back into her head.
Every Sunday at 7:30.
Yeah, that's basically.
That's what this is for.
I mean, did you? I know you guys probably didn't see the beginning of the stream, but did you see how excited Ted got when he could talk about Go Dog Go with a bunch of other people who had listened to Pageau? And I was super excited to just listen to that. You guys got to catch the beginning of that when
the Dr. Seuss book.
It's not Dr. Seuss, but it's written in the same style. And
okay.
He did a Pageau analysis of it. And at one point he was practically crying because of how beautiful it is. And he was 100% stinking correct about it.
Do you like my hat?
Yeah, right. And it's like, oh man, you don't get that resolution of the world where everybody's on top of the tree having a glorious party until the masculine and the feminine have been reconciled. Oh my gosh.
I read the Green Eggs and Ham with my son, and he likes to read the Angry Guy. but all he pretty much gets with is, no, I do not like them. No. And, and it's so great.
My son is just starting to let me read him books. His main interest so far has been to turn the pages because he just wants to do that over and over again. So he's now finally sitting down. So I'm trying to read him these nice, wholesome books and like the big Catholic story Bible or something. with all the things in it. And now maybe he'll listen as opposed to just desperately try to get the pages and cry
I-
when Daddy won't let him.
Be careful. One time when I was in the bathroom, Wallace got the entire book of Genesis.
What do you mean he got it? Like he threw it out?
He like he was just barely crawling, and he pulled it down from the table while I was in the bathroom and peeled it out of the book.
Yep, that's 100% what Isaiah would do. 100%.
They're so hungry for the truth.
I come out
When I found your words and I ate them.
in a pile of Genesis. And I was like, no.
How good your law is, O Lord. It's delicious.
Like
We could
honey in
with
the
some
mouth.
salt.
Like honey in the mouth.
Oh, speaking of things that I want, I would also like to go to bed because I had 2 masses and an hour and a half of confessions today.
Ooh, that's a long one.
Yeah, it's Divine Mercy Sunday. And people wanted that Divine Mercy. It came from all around. So just doing my job. So good night, everybody. God bless you all.
Have a good night.